We are live, everybody. Welcome to the stream. So today's whole stream is gonna be about reacting to scary videos and whatnot. Um, you guys can go ahead and leave in the in the comment section below what videos I should react to. Being scary videos, of course, and I'll react to them. Videos I should react. Damn, I heard myself. And I'll be more than gladly to what's it called, react to them for you guys. And oh, I need to do something really quick. Sorry guys, you can't see anything, but scary animations. Oh, maybe actually, yeah, that's actually pretty pretty smart. That's actually pretty perfect. Now you guys can see my screen. Perfect. Ooh-wee. All right, so let's just wait for a couple people to pull up to this quick. What it do? Hey, what's up, Luis? How's it going, bro? Long time no see, big fella. So as you can see, Luis, I'm doing the scary videos reaction, like like reacting to scary videos and whatnot. So if you want to recommend one, I say put one down. I'll react to it, baby girl. Here I am. Oh shit! Here I am already. On on Google and whatnot. Going on YouTube real quick. It's spooky. Hey, what's up, Oscar? So if you guys have any recommendations on what I should watch for tonight, it'd be truly appreciated. But somebody already recommended scary animation, so I guess we'll try that first. And if you guys have anything else that you guys like to recommend for me to react to, then I will. It being scary, at least it being scary. Scary story animations. Okay, let's get it then. Let's get it then. 2020. Let's go with 2020. That one's too long. Because I'm not trying to make it all just about. Oh hell no, I'm good, baby. What you mean, dog? So which one should I watch? Okay, let's watch this one. All right. should I make it full screen, guys?
Don't turn on the light.
Fuck, bitch.
She commandeered the room in the basement of her dorm room as soon as she realized.
Oh wait, this is the person who posted it. Go subscribe to them if you guys, you guys should. Just, giving credit where credit is due.
Her roommate, Jenna, liked to get to bed early, so she packed up everything she thought she would need and went downstairs to study.
Sorry.
And study. And study some more. It was 2 o'clock when she realized that she'd left one of the textbooks upstairs on her bed.
Big dummy.
With a dramatic sigh, she rose and climbed the stairs slowly to her third-floor dorm room. The lights were dim in the long hallway, and the old boards creaked under her weary tread. She reached her room and turned the handle as softly as she could, pushing the door open just enough to slip inside, so that the hall lights wouldn't wake her roommate. The room was filled with a strange metallic smell. She frowned a bit, her arms breaking out into chills. There was a strange feeling of malice in the room.
Ooh,
as if a malevolent gaze was fixed upon her.
It's the worst feeling ever.
It was a mind trick. The all-nighter was catching up with her. She could hear Jenna breathing on the far side of the room. a heavy sound, almost as if she had been running. Jenna must have picked up a cold during the last tense week before finals. She crept along the wall until she reached her bed, groping among the covers for the stray history textbook. In the silence, she could hear a steady
nice
drip, drip, drip sound. She sighed silently. Facilities would have to come fix the sink in the bathroom again. Her fingers closed on the textbook. She picked it up softly and withdrew from the room as silently as she could.
Turn the fucking light.
Relieved to be out of the room, she hurried back downstairs, collapsed into an overstuffed chair, and studied until 6 o'clock. She finally decided that enough was enough. If she slipped upstairs now, she could get a couple hours sleep before her 9 o'clock exam. The first of the sun's rays were beaming through the windows as she slowly slid the door open, hoping not to awaken Jenna. Her nose was met by an earthly, metallic smell a second before her eyes registered the scene in her dorm room.
Huh?
Jenna was spread eagled on top of her bed against the far wall.
What
her
the
throat
fuck?
cut from ear to ear, and her nightdress stained with blood. 2 drops of blood fell from the saturated blanket with a drip, drip noise that sounded like a leaky faucet. Scream after scream poured from her mouth.
Bro,
but she couldn't
what?
stop herself any more than she could cease wringing her hands. All along the...
Yo, hold on a minute. Guys, you guys do realize that when she had walked in, she was alive. Like, she was breathing. Like, she was basically gasping for air. And the friend didn't even realize. God damn. That is fucking scary as shit. Fuck. I'd be so pissed at my roommate if he came in. My throat was slit. And I was over here breathing for help, and the motherfucker just came in and like didn't even check up on me. Like, what the fuck kind of roommate is that? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's keep going.
In the hallway, doors slammed and footsteps came running down the passage. Within moments, other students had gathered in her doorway, and one of her friends gripped her arm with a shaking hand and pointed a trembling finger toward the wall. Her eyes widened in shock at what she saw. Then she fainted into her friend's arms. On the wall, above her bed, written in her roommate's blood, were the words, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light?"
Oh, fuck. That made me get chills. Holy shit. I need to get a face cam. I think I'm gonna do a dono thing where I get, hopefully you guys can help me out with the face cam. Actually, I don't know which one to buy, and I don't know if I want to spend.
When I was about 12, my great uncle John came from Ukraine to visit us in Canada. He had a lot of stories, but this was the one that stood out. In the late 1960s, John was traveling by train from his village to another to visit family. He had to change trains at one point, and was dropped off at what amounted to a platform and a hut in the middle of nowhere. There was no one else at the station, and other than a dirt road that led off into the surrounding woods, there was nothing there. He waited for some time, but no train came. It was winter, and getting colder and darker, and just about the time he started worrying about having a place to stay and some food to eat, an old woman appeared out of the twilight.
Oh, fuck, that's La Llorona way.
She asked if he was waiting for such and such a train. And when he said he was, she said it wouldn't be along until the following day. She asked if he needed a bed for the night, and offered him a meal and a room at her place, which she said was about an hour's walk from the station. Lodging with locals was more or less the standard when travelling in this part of the USSR, and Great Uncle John wasn't looking forward to a hungry night on a cold platform, so he was glad to accept her offer. He took his suitcase, and they set off together down the dark road into the forest.
The fuck would you follow a woman?
It was more than an hour away. More like 2.
Oh, hell no, bro.
And by the time they arrived at the woman's
she
small
got a
2-story
hunch and
house,
shit.
John
Fucking
was
Igor
tired
looking
and
at.
hungry. They went inside, and the woman lit some oil lamps and warmed some borscht for them.
Oh.
It was the first time John was able to see the woman clearly, and he was a bit startled to realize that the old woman was actually a man.
Oh.
Not wanting to pry and too tired to care, John finished his soup and asked where he would be sleeping. She led him up the stairs to a tiny room with a window that contained a single bed and nothing else.
Bruh.
He thanked her, they said goodnight, and she closed the door. Then she locked it, leaving him in the dark. Somewhat creeped out by this, John called to her, but she didn't answer, and he heard nothing. Figuring he would deal with it in the morning, and that she had probably done it by mistake, John set his suitcase down and laid on the bed, deciding to make the best of it and get some sleep.
That's so stupid. Like, how would you go to sleep after the bitch locked the fucking door? Like, you would jump out the fucking window. Like, the fuck? That's stupid.
Before he could fall asleep, though, he felt the urge to pee and got out of bed, hoping to find a chamber pot or something he could pee in. He got onto his hands and knees and began to feel under the bed in the darkness,
in your suitcase,
thinking that's where the pot would be if there was one. Instead, he found a body.
Holy
Great Uncle John went right to the window to see if he could exit the room that way. It was nailed shut. He knew that if he remained in the room, he was probably a dead man. But if he broke the window and tried to get out that way, there was a good chance that the old woman, and who knows who else was there, would hear him and come into the room before he could get away. So he did the only thing he could do.
Don't tell me
he pulled the body from under the bed, heaved it onto the mattress, and covered it with the blanket.
I bet that was pretty heavy.
Then he got under the bed and waited. Sure enough, about an hour later, he heard footsteps coming slowly up the stairs, and then towards the room. The lock clicked, and the knob turned slowly. In the gloom, John saw someone move towards the bed. He heard several terrific and sickening thuds. The person had bashed the body on the bed with a large crowbar, which they had then dropped on the floor right in front of John. There was silence. Then the person went out of the room, and the door was shut again. The footsteps went down the stairs, and then, once more, silence.
Listen, man, you better grab that fucking crowbar. Grab it, attaboy, attaboy.
Slowly pry the window open.
Go down and get the shit out of that lady.
But I imagine he was shitting bricks the entire time. When the window was up, he threw his suitcase out, then dove through himself, not caring what was below him, only worried about what was behind. He landed without too much injury and began to run into a field behind the house, towards some lights in the far distance.
It was a choo-choo train.
It turned out to be a highway with some military and transport trucks on it, and John was able to get a ride to another village where he could catch a train.
Why did he call his Uncle John?
He didn't bother reporting what happened to the authorities, since at that time in the USSR, there was a distinct chance he would be the one who got into trouble. He just thanked God that he escaped, and decided that the next time he traveled to visit relatives, he'd take another way.
Yeah, fuck that. Freaking lady or dude just murdered people in the middle of the woods. Fucking bitches. Fucking pussy ass bitch. Ooh, home invasion. These are nice. I think these are
Last summer I came home to visit my parents and siblings.
A lot of shit.
I usually spend my summers working for my university's housing, so I was really eager to get away from all that and spend a relaxing few months at home.
There you go.
My parents' house is in a decent neighborhood. Never had there been an instance of burglary or home invasions. It was a pretty quiet suburbia. I would even venture to say boring on some accounts. Anyway, last summer, the air conditioning was broken at our house, and my dad was going to have a repairman come by and check it out around 2 p.m., and he would leave work early to meet him. My mom and sisters were off to work and school, so I was at the house by myself. my room was upstairs. I took a nap and woke up to the sound of a door slamming at around 1:30. I didn't think anything of it because I thought it was my dad meeting the repairman a little early. I decided I'd go and join them to see what the damage was. I was eager to get the AC back because summers in Texas are awful.
Big ass head right there.
When I got to the second floor landing, I noticed something was off right away. It was dead silent. I heard my dad's gun cabinet open. The place where he kept his most prized guns.
I think that was
I thought it was strange, but my dad did love to chat and show off his things. I honestly had no clue what was going on. And then my cell phone rang in the bathroom next to my room. I was keeping it in there to charge because the outlet in my room was broken. It was my dad. He was calling to let me know that the repairman was coming at 3 instead of 2. Now, I've read where people talk about going cold all over when they're afraid, but at that exact moment, I felt like I was about to throw up everywhere. I was so scared, because whoever was downstairs was not my dad, and it apparently wasn't the repairman. I locked myself in the bathroom and told him what was going on. He promptly told me to call the police, and I did. The operator stayed on the line with me and said the officers that would arrive had a safe word they would tell me to assure it was actually them. I sat in the dark bathroom for what seemed like ages, my heart racing. Finally, there was a soft knock on the door. The man said it was the police and gave me the safe word, and I quickly ran out to meet them, almost hyperventilating.
Oh shit.
And in a flash, all of the police officers were training their guns on me. I held my hands up, freaking out, but they ushered me away from the door quickly. I didn't have time to ask questions because the officers turned on the bathroom light. Standing in the bathtub was a man, dressed all in black, clutching a knife.
The fuck?
He was staring right at me. He was there the entire time.
Holy shit, he was in there the entire time. Oh, fuck you, no ads. I don't even get paid to do this. Fuck you. The guy was in there the entire time. What the hell?
I've always had a innate fear of the night. Not so much the dark, but the night itself. As a child, my imagination was overcome with stories of creatures that come alive at night and the safety offered by a house and light. I never had anything to base this fear on, until a night when I decided to go with a buddy of mine to a baseball game and got stuck at a light at 2 a.m. after dropping him off at home. Of course, that night, the game went into extra innings, and so I didn't get a chance to drop my friend off back home until well after 1 a.m. Everything was fine on the way home until I hit a light right before the street that led to my house. It was a T-junction and I was turning left. The light is one of those that you think is broken until it finally turns green right when you finally decide to just run it. So, of course, I pulled up right as the light turned red. I would have just run the light, seeing as no one was there and it was closing in on 2 a.m. on a school night.
My God, you do not.
But earlier that week I had heard the phrase, character is what you do when no one is looking, and for whatever reason, that was the night I decided to prove to myself that I was a man of character. Big mistake. I pulled to a stop at the light, feeling good about myself, bordering on self-righteous, when I happened to look out of my window to my left and noticed a lady sitting all alone on a bus bench.
Oh, fuck that.
We made brief eye contact and I quickly looked away. It was too late. I could see movement out of my peripheral vision and knew she was coming my way. I looked out the window and noticed she was carrying a bag. I quickly checked that my doors were locked and that all my windows were up. I then moved my right foot above the accelerator just in case and braced myself for what was to come. I was hoping it would just be an awkward exchange and was praying for a quick light change before she reached me so I could just get out of there. But I knew there was a slim chance of that. She walked right up to my window, put down her bag, and began to tap on my window. I nervously looked up at her and she mentioned for me to put my window down. I had automatic windows, so I just imagined pushing too hard on the window button and that thing just coming all the way down. So I took a deep breath and lightly flicked it with my finger. The window moved microscopically down, but she didn't seem to notice or care. She then leaned in and began to talk. She said,
"My boyfriend beat me up. I have a friend who lives down the street. Can you give me a ride?"
I should stop and give you a brief physical description of the bag lady. She was small and skinny and kind of an indeterminate age. She was either in her mid-20s and had lived a hard 20-plus years on the street, or she was 60-something years old who had lived a moderately hard life on the street. All that to say, just by looking at her, there was no way to verify her story. She looked beat up by life, not just by a boyfriend. But there was something about her delivery. It was robotic and seemed practiced, like she was disconnected for the moment. That made my skin crawl. And after a brief, maybe about a second debate on whether I should do it, I told her that I had to get home and that I couldn't give her a ride. After my first refusal, she leaned in closer and said the same thing again.
"My boyfriend beat me up. I have a friend who lives down the street. Can you give me a ride?"
The man said,
This
"No,
time
bitch."
I felt more confident when
Do you
I
understand what no
means?
No means no. That means we must have consent to be in somebody's car. Stupid bitch. I don't want to. All these filmers want to talk about how, guys. They need yes means yes, no means no. How about this right here, huh?
Ride and told her I had a curfew and had to get home. She leaned in a third time and began her statement again.
"My boyfriend beat me up."
At this point, the light changed and I slowly lifted my foot off the brake and started slowly rolling forward and began muttering an apology. She didn't move. She just looked at the light, looked down at me, leaned in closer, and said 5 words that have haunted me ever since.
"You made the right decision."
Then she picked up her bag and walked back towards the bench. I peeled out of the intersection and cried and screamed all the way home. I have no idea what she planned to do, or if there were more people waiting to jump in my car from the bushes had I moved to let her in. But that encounter has haunted me ever since, and has confirmed in my mind that nothing good happens after dark.
God damn. So what should I watch now, guys? Holy shit! I watch like some ghost stuff or like some. Everybody gangsta until it says true stories. That's funny. Lol, even the older woman was actually a man. Continue to say shit. Exactly. Am I the only person that heard this exact story in a different channel but worded differently? Yes. Don't turn on the light. Me, okay, turns off light. Turn lights off. Oh. So what should I watch next, guys? I think I'm gonna watch. Okay, I think I'll watch this one. Llama Arts. Make sure. Not trying to take away credit. Not trying to take credit from nobody. Llama Arts is the owner of this video. I repeat, Llama Arts is the owner of this video. After this video goes up, I will edit it to like I'll put their channels in the description soon. Oh, pizza.
I was out doing
some pretty good animation
one
here.
Late night. It was probably the longest drive I have ever taken for a pizza delivery. From the pizza place I worked at, it was a 20-minute drive, which isn't too crazy out where I live. Plus, they ordered 4 large pies, so I figured it was a party and I would get a much bigger tip.
Pie? You call it pie?
Navigating the dirt roads at night was always annoying, though. I pulled up to the given address. It was some old, sketchy-looking building, literally in the middle of a forest clearing. There were no cars parked anywhere, or any lights on. I put my car in park and called my boss. I asked him to reread the address at least 3 times to make sure I typed it in right, but that checked out. I could tell he was in a really bitchy mood, and he told me to at least knock on the door and check it out. He would normally get mad if we took back 1 pie, but I was afraid of what he would do if I brought back 4.
Bruh.
I was insanely unnerved, but got out anyway and forced myself to the front door of the building.
Got a boy to
There was
deliver
no
some
doorbell,
pizzas,
so
not
I just
pie.
knocked really hard. I heard nothing and didn't really expect to hear anything. I was extremely disappointed, not because nobody answered the door, but because I was realizing that it was all a waste of time and gas. I knocked one more time out of desperation, and then began to hear some kind of rustling noises from inside of the building. I knocked again and yelled that I was the pizza guy. There was silence now. I felt a bit more uncomfortable now than before. But before I could turn around, I noticed something at the window. There was someone looking through the window.
Oh, fuck that. You only fucked up. Stupid. Damn, look at those fucking eyes.
All I noticed were their
Imagine
eyes.
that shit just staring right back at you. Nah, fuck nah. Throwing the fucking pizza through the window and be like, fuck it, if I get fired, I get fired, motherfucker.
Me. I was disturbed enough by this and dropped the pizzas and ran back to my car. The shitty thing wouldn't start until turning the key for the third time. I drove off the grass and back onto the dirt road.
Oh, fuck that, he's
but
still
I felt the
there.
car rocking about, shaking and bumping. Something wasn't right. I didn't make it far from the building before I started hearing a sharp scraping sound coming from outside.
Ooh,
there was so much resistance that I couldn't even drive. The car came to a stop. I got out of the car to check what the hell was wrong.
Tires.
A chill ran up my spine as I began to feel like my heart was constantly skipping beats. My tires had been slashed and had completely fallen off the rim. Not just the front though.
Damn, they really trying to finesse my boy. They finna. I see you. Hi, hey, welcome. I see you. Welcome to the stream. If you like what you see, you should definitely subscribe. I usually post video game content, but I try to go ahead and do some reaction, because why not? And this guy were trying to finesse the system. They were trying to call the pizza delivery man just to kill him and eat the pizza, free pizza. It's bad at cost. It's like a kill streak, you know? Call of Duty, 1 kill streak, you get pizza for free.
All 4 tires were slashed. I realized somebody did this when I was knocking on the door to that building. Instead of running, I got back in the car and locked the doors. I was so close to that building, I could practically see it from where I was, if it weren't for the trees blocking the view. I dialed 911 and explained everything to the operator. She told me the cops would be over as soon as possible and that I need to stay hidden. I asked her if it was advisable to stay in the car or run, and she told me it would be best to stay in the car with the door locked. She asked me to stay on the line with her until the cops arrived. My whole body was shaking. In all directions, there was nothing but dark, seemingly endless forest. I knew it would take forever for the cops to get there. I was not comfortable with sitting in that car so close to whoever did this. The next part, though, is what utterly destroyed me. It still shakes me to this day, and I hope nobody ever has to experience this kind of fear. As I was scanning all the windows, making sure nobody was outside, I looked in the rearview mirror, and there was the same person.
Yo, no, fuck that. Imagine that shit. That's always been one of my fears. That has always been one of my fears, that I'm gonna look at the rear view mirror, and it's gonna be somebody just standing there looking at me as I drive off.
I could see now that it was a woman, and I could ever so slightly see a smile begin to spread across her face. I opened my door and full-on sprinted into the woods, not caring how much noise I made. I ran until I was out of breath, which didn't take long, and I hid behind a giant log on the ground. I tried to cover my loud breathing with my hand as I waited and waited for what felt like hours, until I finally heard sirens in the distance. I gathered up all the stamina I had left to run all the way back in the direction of the dirt road.
A 3-mile run, you know,
glowing red
like
and
10
blue
minutes.
Came into view, and I had never felt better in my life. They were parked in front of my car, investigating with flashlights. I came out yelling at them like a lunatic to help me. I fell to the floor and started to gag, almost throwing up from running so much. They picked me up and began to question me, to which I explained everything to the best of my ability. One of the 2 cars drove over to the building, and the 2 officers began to search the building. They came back with nothing except for a couple of spiky objects. These objects were exactly the same as the ones used to slash my tires. The cops guessed that it was some kind of sick, demented couple, being that I saw the woman, but unfortunately they were never found, and that still kills me to this day. I obviously quit my job right after that and started working at a local grocery store. I know that I'll never forget seeing that woman at the back of my car.
Yo, fuck that. No fucking ads. Get the fucking ads out of here. I don't even get paid.
I recently moved out, and I already have a horror story to tell. The house I moved into isn't anything impressive. It's just a house that's appropriate for 1 or 2 people. But I'd say right away, I started hearing weird sounds coming from inside the walls. I first heard it in the kitchen, and then in the bathroom, but on night 3, I started hearing it in my bedroom. I was sure there was some kind of animal living in my walls. I just had to figure out how to get rid of it. The next morning, I didn't even have enough milk to fill the bowl of cereal. I couldn't believe I hadn't realized I needed more milk. In fact, I seemed to be eating up all of my food pretty fast. I woke up in the middle of that night to the sound of breathing. Not my breathing. It sounded just like the breathing of a person. I flipped the lamp on and it stopped. I chalked it up as my mind playing tricks on me after waking up. The next day was really hot, so I turned on the AC for the first time. I checked every single vent, and some of them weren't blowing any air, one of them being the vent right next to my bed. I peered through the vent with a flashlight. There wasn't even a duct behind the vent. It was just the inside of the wall. It seemed that whatever air duct was in there had been removed. Unfortunately, I didn't look into the air conditioning system while buying the house, so I didn't know about this. That night, I had to sleep in the heat with no AC, so I was up pretty late, constantly rolling around and flipping the pillow over. Then, I eventually started to hear the breathing again, but this time, I was fully awake. I knew it was real this time. It was coming to my left. I looked to my left at the air vents. The sound was surely coming from in there. I grabbed the flashlight again and shined it in through the vent. I dropped it and screamed. There was someone's face peering through the cracks of the vents. The first thing I saw were their eyes, open wide and glowing. I screamed all the way down and out the house. I soon found out there was a crazy, dangerous homeless man living in my walls, and he had been eating my food ever since I moved in.
Damn. He's the motherfucker. He's a fat ass.
I was doing some night hog hunting in the woods near my backyard. I was hiding in the tower I had built about a decade ago. In case anyone's wondering, I of course had a night vision scope attachment. I guess I'm what you would consider a hardcore hunter. I don't want to bore you with the unnecessary story prolonging details, so I'll make this short. And I want everyone to know that though I agree this story sounds far-fetched and crazy, it is nothing but the truth. And I in a way actually consider myself lucky that I'll always have such a horrifying story to share. So, while I was sitting in the tower waiting for movement, it finally came. I took
I only see a floating rifle, boys.
It wasn't at all a hog, or any kind of animal I was expecting. It was a person, a man wearing all black. Black sweatpants, black shoes, and a black hoodie with the hood over his head. But that wasn't the freakiest part. He was dragging a sack behind him. My heart started racing. I was pretty sure I was witnessing this guy trying to bury a body. I continued to watch him, but then he slowed down, and I swear to God, it looked as if he turned his head up to me.
Oh, fuck that. Damn, glowing eye.
I ducked down under the wooden walls of the tower, shaking in my boots. Yes, I had a gun, but just the idea of using it against a person is horrifying. I lay low, praying to God that he hadn't seen me. It wouldn't make sense if he could, though. It's practically pitch black out here, or at least, that was my logic. Seconds felt like an eternity as I waited for the footsteps in the leaves to move elsewhere, but I didn't hear any footsteps. All I heard was the sound of a foot hitting one of the wooden planks on the ladder of the tower. I felt the entire tower vibrate and shake as there were 2 more steps moving up the ladder. At this point, I was asking myself deep down, am I going to be able to shoot someone? But for some reason, whoever was down there decided not to climb all the way up, as I heard them jump back down to the forest ground and began dragging the sack away. I think I stayed frozen like a statue for at least 10 minutes before even peeking over the ledge again. The coast seemed clear. I had to get home and warn the police immediately. I hopped over the ledge and descended down the ladder.
That man slid down that bitch real quick like he was in Rainbow Six.
It was a stupid move considering the situation, and ran back in the direction of my house. I was only able to run for about 10 seconds or so when I heard the rapid, manic footsteps crunching the leaves from behind me. I took a look over my shoulder, and there he was, inches away from my face. I spun around and shot him in the shoulder. He stopped and screamed in agony, and I took that moment to finish my dash to my house. Again, in hindsight, I should have held him hostage somehow, but that doesn't even matter now. I called the police, who showed up within 15 minutes with a whole search squad, and I led them all into the woods to the exact location where I shot him. There was a faint yet noticeable blood trail spilled onto the leaves, which led past the body bag, which the cops seized, and eventually right to the maniac, who was hiding under a log next to a tree. He was arrested and tried for the murder of Jin-Quen Sakanaki, a Japanese corner store owner. I don't know the full story behind it, but I do know I won't forget this one for the rest of my life, and I'll also be telling it for the rest of my life. I'll never forget the time me and my brother snuck out past our bedtimes to explore an allegedly haunted house down the block. Yes, I said bedtime, as I was only 10.
That nigga looks like
Luke
Chucky.
was only 12. When our parents said goodnight to us, I went to Luke's room, and we took a couple hand-powered flashlights with us, and hopped outside through the window. Luckily, his room was on the first floor. Those hand-powered flashlights worked by constantly pushing in a little trigger that would create light inside the lens. They were noisy as hell, but they were convenient. Once we were outside, we just walked down the block, and in 2 minutes we were there. It was rumored by all the neighborhood kids and teens that the place was haunted. Everything about it was creepy. The older, more antique design of the house, the isolation from the rest of the house.
Oh shit, that looks like the Neighbor house from It.
It seemed perfect for a horror movie. We went around to the backyard. This was all my curious and confident brother's idea. I was scared shitless. The door was locked, as expected. I felt a bit of relief, thinking we might just go home. But my brother made a shocking move next. He grabbed a plank of wood laying in the grass and began smashing the already chipped window. Eventually there was enough of an opening to unlock it and slide it up completely. We hopped inside and began cranking those noisy-ass flashlights. Immediately after entering the house, we both picked up on the fact that it was like 90 degrees in there, which was odd as it was a September night in the mid-70s. There was no graffiti or anything anywhere. In fact, it was
a creepy-ass house.
Besides a few pieces of furniture that were clearly not worth taking along. It seemed we were the first to enter the house, shockingly, or at least from the back. We went upstairs to the main floor from the little den area and continued cranking the flashlights. That's when we heard the slightest crack in the floorboards from right above us. We both jumped. I tugged for Luke to leave, but he told me the place is old as hell. It's just house noises. I stopped
just
cranking
house
the
noises? What the fuck?
point, and I urged Luke to do the same, but he only called me stupid for suggesting something so ridiculous. Then there was another crack in the floorboards from above us. He began walking upstairs. I didn't want to go up there, but I was not about to stay down there alone. I followed behind him to the upstairs. There was a door that led to a room right above where we were standing. I begged him not to open it, but he must have just wanted to be the big, tough older brother. He began to reach for the doorknob while still cranking the noisy flashlight, but then he stopped. I was confused. I could see in the dark he was moving his ear up against the door, listening for something. Silence. Then, the most deafening, nightmare-inducing moment of my life. A single bang on the door from the other side sent my brother staggering into the wall in pain, covering his ear.
Hey, what's up, Joshua? Welcome to the stream.
And ran straight out the back door and back home. We were so loud when we got back that our parents found us out. We told them what happened, but they naturally didn't care and grounded us both for a week. 2 nights later, I woke to the sound of something from outside my window and a glare of brightness sneaking in through my slightly opened blind. I sat up, and my heart sank when I realized it was the sound of the crank to my flashlight. I stood up and looked out the window, and that's when it stopped. There was nothing but complete blackness out there after that. I woke the next day barely remembering what happened, and I still hope today that that part was just a dream.
The fuck?
Where is L?
This story took place a long time ago, back in 2002, when Craigslist was in its early years. Many wouldn't know, but back in those days, Craigslist was a lot different. It was a lot more so an online garage sale, or just a place where people would list old things that still had some value that they were willing to give away. I got a basketball hoop, a hockey net, and a spoiler for my car, all free in perfect condition in that same year. You'd be lucky if you found something like that these days. Anyway, me and my son were dying to buy a hockey net so we could practice in the cul-de-sac we lived in. For the record, this was before I got that free one I mentioned. Wouldn't you know it, on Craigslist there was an ad for a slightly used regulation-size hockey goal for only $50.
$50?
It came with a puck and 2 slightly used hockey sticks. I still have a picture of that ad to this day. It seemed like the perfect deal, but he lived about 2 hours away.
That's the same kid from the last story.
I called the number he had listed, and he sounded pretty normal on the phone. He had a pretty deep, dark voice, but nothing that would be off-putting. I remember his voice being a bit emotionless. He agreed to meet halfway due to the distance, said he'd put the stuff in the back of his pickup truck. He said he could only come after he got off from work though, which was much later in the day, way past dark. We agreed to meet at some rest stop off the highway. Me and my son, who was 11 at the time, took my wife's minivan, the only car that would be able to fit that huge thing. Within an hour, we were at the truck stop, which was empty at this hour, but was decently lit by 3 big light posts. I parked right under one of the lights and waited. A pickup truck pulled in off the highway right on time. He stopped right in front of me. I went over to his window, but then noticed there was nothing in the back of his truck. "You Steve?" he asked me.
It looks like he's about to kill everybody.
I said. "Alright, my buddy's bringing in the stuff with his truck." The guy pulled up behind my car and put it in park. I suddenly had a bad feeling. I told my son to get back in the car and lock every door except mine. 2 more pairs of headlights came off the highway into the lots, surely enough pulling up next to me. And, not surprisingly at this point, there was no hockey equipment in either one of them. My heart was racing. I was worried. Not for me, but for my young son who I for some reason brought with me on this trip. A group of large men mixed with heavy-set and muscular physiques stepped out of the 2 pickup trucks behind the first one. They eyed me from head to toe, giving that typical intimidation stare down. Then this bald guy wearing sunglasses said in a deep voice, "Where's the money?" I instantly pulled out my wallet and handed it to him, begging him to just let me and my son go.
Real.
He pulled out like $100 and was pissed, expecting more. He then sent 2 of his goons or whatever to get my son. At this point, I screamed and begged for him not to take him. One of the men broke the glass to the minivan back door, and I vividly remember the disturbing, heartbreaking screams of my young son. What happened next was what I can only explain to be a miracle from God answering my prayers. A car was entering the lot from off the highway. All the men stopped and turned to look at it. As it got closer, my heart literally dropped in excitement as I saw it was a police car. The lights suddenly began to flash as he got close enough to see what was going on. All of the men were back in their trucks within seconds, speeding off down the highway. Well, at least 2 of them. The truck in the back was caught immediately by the police car, and backup arrived shortly. I explained everything to them, and they got the men that were caught to rat out on the others surprisingly quickly.
Damn.
I guess luckily the guys in the back truck weren't very loyal to whoever their leader was, if they even had any type of leader. Believe it or not, I had a police escort all the way home to make me and my son feel safer.
Nice.
I don't want to get into all the legal stuff, but I'll just say that all of those men except for one was caught, and I'm pretty sure that was the driver of the first pickup truck. Needless to say, my Craigslist days weren't over at that point, but I have always been much more protective of my son, and much more cautious of Craigslist meetings since then. There was once an isolated island off the coast of Scotland where 3 lighthouse keepers lived and were responsible for keeping the building intact. One day, when their monthly supply ship dropped in, the island was silent. No response from the lighthouse keepers. Eventually, the captain and some crew members went to investigate and found a disturbingly empty lighthouse. 2 of the 3 waterproof coats were missing from their hangars, and the kitchen was left in a state as if people had left in a hurry. The lighthouse log only added more mystery to the situation. The log described how one of the keepers wouldn't talk, and the other continuously cried for hours. All this pain and fear seemed to be coming from what was referred to as a powerful storm looming in the distance. However, this begs the question, why were they so scared of a simple storm? They should have been safe in the brand new lighthouse,
the storm
right?
is from that.
The log goes on to talk about how they all sat close together and prayed for the storm to be over. The final log states, "The storm has passed, the skies are calm, and God is over all." Their bodies were never found, and the cause of their death is still a mystery to this day. The most accepted theory is that they somehow got swept out to sea during the storm, never to be seen again. But one final detail remains, one that scared the captain and his crew to the bone. The powerful storm described in the log didn't exist. There were no storms reported in the area. In fact, the skies were calm all day. It was 2 years ago. I was called in to do the night shift, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. at 7-Eleven, since somebody called out. The store was located on a busy road in a rather
That's a small 7-Eleven, my guy.
During the night shift, you could expect anywhere from 10 to 20 people come in to buy a beer or something else. This one particular night, there was this one guy, mid-20s, that came in. He started making weird noises, like loud yelling noises.
What?
I assumed he had some kind of mental disability. In fact, my brother has a mental disability, so I immediately felt sympathy for the guy. He walked up to the counter without any items, with his head facing me, but his eyes were looking up at the ceiling. I felt uncomfortable. I honestly didn't know how to deal with it. I tried speaking with him, but he only responded in loud noises. I kept checking if he was with someone outside, but he was alone. There weren't any cars in the parking lot, so I assumed he walked. He stood there for so long, looking up at the ceiling and making noises, that I tried to get him out by handing him a bag of chips and telling him he can go. I tried finding some kind of number to call for someone to help him. Then, out of nowhere, he finally turned around and walked out of the store. I felt so horrible for the man, but at the same time, I felt a bit creeped out. About an hour later, the phone on the counter rang. I picked up to hear the familiar yelling sounds of the man from earlier. It caught me off guard. I didn't know what to think.
Imagine getting a phone call
to be some kind of prank.
And it's the same dude just screaming at you.
And was now becoming paranoid of my surroundings.
I'd have fucking gone out 10 and swung my fucking hands.
Come 4 o'clock, the person working after me came in, finally allowing for me to go home. It wasn't my problem anymore.
Or you just swooped in and said, "Let me take it from ya."
Ready to get to sleep. But my phone rang within a minute after entering the door. I felt a chill run down my spine. Why would someone be calling at 4 a.m.? I could only imagine it was bad news. I braced myself and picked up the phone to hear the man again.
Oh, fuck that.
I felt sick to my stomach.
Fuck that. Fuck that. I ain't fucking with that. I ain't fucking with that.
All night, I felt like I was being watched, even with all the blinds shut. And I could swear I heard strange noises coming from all over my house. I refused to get any sleep until the sun came up. Weeks passed, and I had forgotten
feeling like
about
Floyd up in this Mayweather.
One day, when going into the basement for the first time in a while, I found that papers had been scattered all over the floor. And when I went into the basement closet, I found writing on the walls. 7-Eleven had been written in Sharpie on the wall, along with the address to the 7-Eleven I worked at and my house address. The most disturbing part, I also found various kitchen knives, along with a large pocket knife sitting in the closet. What started out as seemingly just an innocent person, turning into something of a prank, ultimately turned into something much more horrifying. He had been living down there for God knows how long, and I'm just grateful that, for whatever reason, he changed his mind and left, because I haven't seen or heard from him since. All I can say is that man is dangerously ill. About 5 years ago,
guys, last
downtown
last
in a major
story
city in the US.
Before we head out, boys.
So I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommates that even the drug dealers in the city were polite.
What the fuck?
But all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police-patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I went down a short side street in order to loop back down my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street, on my side,
yo, fuck that. Imagine y'all fucking seen that? Just a dude dancing randomly,
to a waltz,
dancing and shit.
But he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass me.
Boy finna
die. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still.
That's Slenderman.
Until I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide and wild.
Jesus, what the fuck?
Tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully white cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off of him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back, and then stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing and was standing with one foot in the street.
Yeah, just to kill it, Luis.
Parallel to me.
Run, boy.
He was facing me,
boy.
Still looking skyward. Smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again, but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty. Still unnerved, I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved, until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down.
What the fuck?
I couldn't tell
my precious,
but I was certain he was facing me. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast. I was so shocked, and I stood there for some time, staring at him.
The fuck are you doing? Just fucking run, dumbass. What the fuck?
He took giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps, as if he were a cartoon character sneaking up on someone. Except he was moving very, very quickly.
Bro, you let him get that close to you, dumbass?
I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray or cell phone or anything at all.
Pepper spray? Use your hands, bitch.
Completely frozen as the smiling man crept toward me. And then he stopped again, about a car length away from me. Still smiling his smile, still looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to mind.
He was all like, what do you want? And fucking voice cracking because he's a little bitch. Pepper spray? Bro, use your fist. Don't be a bitch.
Was, what the fuck do you want? In an
commanding
tone. What came out was a whimper. What the fuck?
Oh,
regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear,
bitch ass,
they can certainly hear it.
Ho,
I heard
dummy,
it in my own voice.
femboy.
That only made me more afraid. But he didn't react to it at all.
By the way, there's nothing wrong with femboys, by the way, just saying.
And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around, very slowly, and started dance walking away. Just like that. Not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go, until he was far enough away to almost be out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him got bigger and bigger. He was coming back my way.
Jesus Christ, man is running.
And this time he was running.
Yikes, bro, run!
I ran until I was off the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of my way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there.
Get a car.
I lived in that city for 6 months after that, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk. He didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane. And that's a very, very scary thing to see.
Yeah, when I lived in San Diego, nothing like that ever happened to me, which is crazy, because you know you kind of expected that stuff to happen when you live in such a big city, and it's not like a creepy person like that, but you know, like a crackhead or something that would like follow you or run after you, but nothing like that ever happened. Kind of sucks. I don't have any fight stories from San Diego, but if we're gonna talk about crossing the border and fighting over there, then that's a different story.
My buddies went camping last summer alongside the Willamette River. We actually had a decent hike into the deep end of woods. We did some night fishing, listening to music, and basically
last story for sure this time. I was just intrigued because it said camping stories, and I like camping.
Drank to the point where everything was funny later in the night. I would guess we finally called it a night somewhere past 2 a.m. I shared a tent with one of my buds, while the other two shared another tent. We heard them laughing about something. At first we laughed at the sound of their laughing, but it soon got annoying and we yelled for them to shut up. One of them responded, "It isn't us." I sat up, startled at the response. I came to realize that it was the sound of only one person laughing, and it didn't sound like either one of my friends.
But it's 4 of you versus 1 person. Go beat their ass.
For somebody to be out this far in the woods.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. y'all ever seen Blair Witch Project, or have y'all ever seen like the reboot? Kind of sucked, not gonna lie, but the reboot was actually more like a sequel to the original one, because you know, whatever. But y'all ever played the game that's kind of like that? I feel.
Julie got closer and louder to our campout. My friend shot up and looked at me with a worried look on his face. I heard my other friends scream over to us that they were getting freaked out. As the laughing got even closer, I could make it out very clearly to be the laugh of a male.
Oh, it's a guy.
In his 30s or 40s.
Oh, you sound like
he was as drunk as us,
the Joker.
Around with friends, but we only heard his laugh, nobody else. There was something indescribably creepy about his laugh too, as if it was missing something to it. You had to be there to understand what I mean.
The hell?
The laughing was now just at the edge of our campsite. But we couldn't hear any footsteps at all. Now that may not seem like a big deal. It was impossible to move through that without making noise. And finally, all of a sudden, the laughing stopped completely. We had no idea where whoever that was standing, as he hadn't made a single stepping sound. We sat there in silence looking at each other. My friend was clearly freaking out, but he was keeping it together the best he could. Finally, something broke the silence. The sound of something rubbing against the cottony fabric of the tent. We saw the outline of a hand through the moonlight.
Oh, fuck that. Imagine that.
The tent.
Wait, we just grabbed that man
at the top of our lungs before getting out of the tent. We ran as fast as we could through the woods, our other friends following us. After about 5 minutes of running, we somehow found our car. I actually puked from running so much before taking the wheel. I don't condone drinking and driving, but I still believe we were just in this situation. By far the most horrific experience of my life. No idea who or what the hell that was, or what they wanted.
That was it? That was it? Was that really the entire... Bro, we didn't even get to see what that was or anything like that. What the fuck? That's so dumb. What the hell did I just see? By the way, if you guys haven't yet, keep sending me questions in my Discord, because I'm still planning on doing the you know, the motherfucking Q&A. So my Discord description below, get into it, send me questions for a Q&A. You can ask as many questions, I do not mind. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end off the stream here. Thank you guys for whoever tuned in. I truly appreciate y'all. It was awesome having you guys here. I really love you all, and I want you guys to have a really great night. And yeah, peace and have a great day.